I heard a story once about two men who really wanted to be forgiven. They felt that they were sinful and they wanted God's forgiveness, so they went to see a holy man, a hermit. And when they got there, they said, "We really want to find and feel God's forgiveness." So the old hermit looked at the first man and he said, "Well, what have you done?" And the man says, "Oh, Holy One, I've sinned greatly. I've sinned against heaven and against my family and my father." He said, Pointed to the next one, "And what have you done?" He says, "Well, I haven't done a whole heck of a lot. I just came along to support my friend here. I do little things, but they're not very important." Okay? He said, "Well, you're going to have to do two things. And the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go out and find rocks for all of your sins." So the two men left and they went off. And a little while later, the first man came back and he had this huge boulder. And it was on the back of his neck and he was bent over and his nose was almost touching the ground. And he got to the holy man and he dropped it. And his body relaxed and he stood straight up with a great relief on him. Now the second man came back holding a little bag of pebbles. He was very pleased with himself and he put it at the feet of the holy man. Holy man said, "Great." He said, "Now the second thing you must do is take these rocks back and put them back where you found them." So the first man, he lifted up the boulder again and struggled off to put it back where he'd found it. Second man picked up his bag, went off, tried to find the place where the pebbles were. First man came back again, excited and relieved. A long time later, the second man came back and said, "I can't do this. This is too hard. I can't find where each of these pebbles went." The holy man said, "Well, that is the way it is sometimes. Sometimes when we have those big sins, we can ask for forgiveness and we're sorry and we feel God's great blessing in our life. But other times we think we only do small things, but we're not very sorry. And so we don't feel that blessing of God." I thought of that story today in terms of our gospel story, that famous story of the prodigal son or the forgiving father. And how often have we looked at that story and focused just on that first son and said, well, either I've been like him and I've done something very wrong, and when I get that forgiveness, I feel so great. But I think a lot of us look at that older son. We're standing there with our arms crossed at the kitchen door. We're not going in. "No, sir, we're a good Catholic. We haven't done anything wrong." Well, we don't get to feel God's forgiveness if we stand there. We don't get to be part of the family. We don't get home. So maybe today, in this Laetare Sunday during Lent, this rejoicing Sunday, we need to rejoice in God's forgiveness. We want to feel that forgiveness, though. So let's take our arms away and let's go through that kitchen door. And let's not only experience God's forgiveness, but also be willing to be forgiving ourselves.